Welcome to my noob-friendly guide to Fracture. Now, people say Fracture is a difficult map compared to others, and to some extent I agree, but it's also not the worst map out there as that belongs to Breeze. Now Breeze, if you could go ahead and just be uninstalled, I would not lose a second of sleep over that. Now what makes Fracture difficult is the sheer amount of angles and little alcoves and areas that people can camp in and attack you from or defend you from. The other things that this map has that other maps just simply don't are things like the zip lines, which give you the ability to attack or defend a site from a completely different angle, even mid-round, and also gives you access to the huge amount of entry points on both sites. Now, people say that Fracture is a T or terrorist/attacking sided map, but I somewhat disagree because I think that with one good sentinel, you can almost anchor an entire site. Now, if you choose to play retake, and what retake is basically letting the other team take a site because you are outnumbered, and then regrouping as a team to attack them with everybody, there are many ways and angles to access each site. So, to some extent, it is an attacking or T-sided map, but not as much as people think it is. Due to all these alleys, it makes the map quite cramped, so this is actually perfect for a specific set of agents. Those agents that I would recommend playing on this map are Cypher, Viper, Breach, Raze, and Chamber. And the three agents that I would not recommend playing on this site would be KO, Yoru, and Phoenix. Now, I'm not saying that these three agents are bad. What I'm saying is their utility is not good for this map. And basically, if you pick one of these agents, you're just relying on your aim being better than the other team, and your util will not be as useful as other agents. Now, somebody like Cypher is great in post-plant and is really good at defending and anchoring a site on his own on Fracture. Viper is also great for giving you access. Breach is insanely good for getting people out of those alleys and sort of opening the game up a little bit. Raze is just insanely good for getting access and for her ability with her mollies and things like that to push people out of those alleys. And Chamber, with his TP, otherwise known as his teleport, as well as his proximity mines, has an incredible ability to just get back and forth across the map. So I think not picking one of these agents, especially if you're somewhat new or low elo, you're basically playing with an arm behind your back from the start. Anyway, enjoy the video that is going to be teaching you how to attack and how to defend A and B site with Cypher and Viper. Enjoy. So as this is a noob-friendly guide to Fracture and playing Cypher on Fracture, what we're going to do is just set up basically the main pain points for where attacking teams are going to attack site. So where you're going to want to set up your tripwires are either in these little alcove sort of areas here, or more likely for lower elos, just keep it simple and stick one here, here, or if you like, you can even set one up here right in front of the doors. Now what this is going to do is not necessarily alert you that they have come through the doors, because the sound of that alone should alert you, but they are most likely going to be rushing through these doors and they'll rush straight into your tripwire. So if you position yourself correctly, you can be up here and get yourself an easy kill once this trips, so you can just pop straight out. As for the camera on A site, what I like to do is generally stick it somewhere safe. So put it in a corner, somewhere like here that has a bit of a dark background as well, so it hides itself a little bit. Something like that should be fine. And basically this gives you access to be able to view the entire site. So if you are rotating, or if you are not on site, or if you are just playing off of your camera itself, then you will always have full view of the site. You can even use it in such a way to keep an eye on this A main entrance area, and if you have your one way set up here, you can trigger that from the camera and then simply pop out and shoot. So starting the round with something like this is actually fairly simple but fairly easy to do. Not only do you have a drop covered if somebody is coming up from the satellite side, you have a main covered. You also have your camera set up on A main so you can see the entire site whilst you keep an eye on the door area. And then you can also then have 3 or 4 people sitting on B and then just play directly off contact on A. It's quite a simple setup, but quite an effective one for A site. I actually find defending on B to be quite difficult with Cypher and just with one person in general, so I do think that this is probably not the best site that you should be solo anchoring. It is definitely a site that you need two people to work with. However, there are a few things that you can do to make things a little bit more difficult for the attacking team. The first thing is setting up your tripwire. I don't recommend this simply because the attacking team will generally come up, sit in this cubby, and look for picks instead of running directly out onto site. You won't see this sort of direct running until slightly higher elos or just crazy individuals in the lower elos. So instead, what I recommend is setting one up about here so that the people who are running on to get to the cubby will trip that wire. And what you can do is you can simply sit here, listen for the footsteps, and when you hear that the trip has been activated, you pop out and you have a free kill. What you can also do is set up your camera in this corner. Now, a little tip about this camera, you can't actually access it from the floor. You will need to go up to the box here, and this will give you a lot more options. And you have full access to site whilst your camera is a little bit hidden. With your second tripwire, something simple like this is going to be good enough to at least alert you if somebody is trying to flank you. And all you have to do at this point is play from tower. You can keep your eyes on if anybody is coming through arcade side. You can keep your eyes if they push through and they're rushing site, basically giving you full access to the site itself. But ideally, you would be playing here, playing off of B main, and you might have somebody gen looking towards arcade to help you out. And this final Cypher tip is a little bit more than noob friendly. However, I think it's probably one of the easiest ways to learn. So all you want to do is come to around about this area on the A main site, get to about here, and then for me, at least, it's press Q to use your cyber cage and aim for here. Bam, it gets stuck up there, and if you do hear somebody breaking a trip around there or you hear footsteps coming this way, simply detonate it and you have a makeshift one-way. This also works with Viper and her Poison Cloud. Now for Viper on A site, things are actually even simpler. I don't recommend having to do anything with satellite here. Just simply put your smoke cloud there, giving you a very simple way of telling whether people are accessing site or not, because you will hear them drop and you will see their feet immediately. Now, what you want to do with your wall, I like to either put it about here, because what it does is it blocks off A main and it also blocks off the door area here. So if they do push through, they still have to push through smoke, and you can just be sitting up here around about rope waiting for them. Or if you like, you can come across here, set your wall up for A main, and simply keep your eyes on the door itself. So with both smokes activated, it should look like this. Both entry points to site here and here have now been blocked off, which will funnel them to either the door here where you will have free access, or if they are going to push onto site, then hopefully you have somebody up here just waiting to take advantage of that already, because once they push through the smoke here, they are going to be frantically searching every single angle, trying not to die. The one way that I was talking about before with Cypher is pretty much the same thing with Viper. All you have to do is come to pretty much the same area, trying to bounce it off of this top section here. Once it lands on there, you have actually even a better one-way. This gives you access to see the full A main section as well as people here, and they will not be able to see anything except for your feet. So this is actually probably one of the simplest one-ways that you can do on almost any map, and is guaranteed to give you shooting access priority. Now B site is actually quite simple. There isn't a whole lot that you can do as a Viper defending. What I would recommend is simply putting your smoke cloud there, having your wall set up for arcade side, and either playing up in tower, off of your wall, or even below. So if you hear footsteps, they're going to have to push through and be checking every angle wildly. And then the same thing for B main. If you do hear footsteps, you can simply pop your smoke, something a little less elaborate than that, and then just play off of these angles. It's quite a simple sight as a Viper. There isn't really a whole lot that you can do, and I recommend just keeping it quite safe and simple. Now, attacking on B side is actually quite good for somebody like Viper, less so for somebody like Cypher, but he is really good for post-plant situations. But getting on site first, that is for Viper. So what is good here is that you can set up a wall that will not only block off all of generator and the sort of spawn side, but will also block off the tower. And so any eyes that are looking towards arcade, if you have people attacking from bench arcade side as well as B main, they will have slightly easier access to get into tower and to get onto site to help you. But what this wall will mainly do is give anybody going up B main a really good and really easy way to access the site, and hopefully clear out the top of tower where people tend to be standing and the bottom behind this cubby, and then get the bomb down. So what you want to do with the line, with the wall, is set up, aim quite high because you are looking to cut off tower, which is quite high up, shoot, and then hopefully it should look something a little bit like this. And then once you activate it, they will have no ability to see you coming from arcade. They will have no ability to see you coming from generator, and you will have really good, really clear access to the site. Clear here, plant bomb, win game. Now, for attacking on A, it is quite similar to attacking on B. All you're trying to do is cut off a large section of the map and the site itself in order to give you easier access. So something simple like this, what it will do is it will cut off the drop section. So anybody that is camping up here trying to look out onto A main and site, they will have a more difficult time because there will be a slight amount of wall in the way. Also, anybody that wants to play in the middle and float sort of around spawn will find it a lot more difficult to be peering from link, and anybody in rope won't have access to the door or even this area here. So what you do is you come up, make sure everything is lined up on your map, roughly like this. Aim quite high, as what you want to do is hit drop, activate it, and then when you come through, it should look a little bit like this. When you activate it, they can still see you a little bit from the ropes area. However, unless you're pushing through, they're not really going to have full view of you. And if you do push through, they will probably very likely only see the top of your head. As far as the A main side goes, drop is mostly cut off here. A link is entirely cut off, so you have quite good access to site. Now this is where a Reyna or a Jet or a duelist in general should be rushing out here onto site, clearing all these other angles. What you have done is you have just cut off a large amount of additional angles that they no longer have to try and clear. Keep in mind, a wall like this, you could have people camping in these spots, but again, it's quite simple and it gives your team a bit of an upper hand. Now, attacking A site with Cypher is actually kind of redundant because he is not an entry frag type player. That is not his role. He is not even a role of player like a Viper, for example, who will gain you more sort of access to the site itself. But what Cypher is the best at, what he is a beast at, is post-plant situations. Now, there are far too many variables to post-plant situations that you can't really have any default sort of answers and lineups and setups. But what I can recommend as far as playing this role goes is if you have come in, if bomb is down, all you can do at that point is give your team recon and try and get frags. So secure the perimeter, something simple like that. All this does is give you recon. Sure, somebody coming from A main, they might hear this, shoot it and run straight through. But what that does, if you're playing on the bomb or if you're playing on site anywhere, what that does is alert you that somebody's there. You don't even have to pop out. You can just say, that trip has been shot, somebody is A main. That trip has been shot, somebody is approaching site. You can even put your camera up there like we did on the defensive side, sit somewhere here, or sit somewhere potentially a little bit more attacking in a defensive sort of way. And this will give you access to see who is approaching from A link, who's coming from A main, if anybody's coming from drop, whilst also giving you access to watching the ropes and the door. So all you're going to be doing is flicking between these, giving your team recon and helping them win the round. Now, attacking B as Cypher is pretty much the same as attacking A. You are not there to gain access to site, you are there for post-plant, you are there to secure the site. Basically, Cypher is a defensive expert, and even on attack, he needs to be defending the bomb and helping his team with his recon. Now, that is all a part of playing your role and knowing how to play your role in order to maximize your team's likelihood of winning, and that will be in a future video that I go over, teaching people how to actually play their role properly, not playing every single agent as a duelist. So what you want to do, once you do have access to B site, again, this won't be down to you 9 times out of 10, but once you have access, securing the perimeter. So if you have site and you're planting here or here, which are quite default options, you are going to have people flanking and coming through defender side spawn mid here. You might get a few in canteen, maybe you get some in B main, and maybe you get some in arcade. So what I would recommend is securing as much perimeter as possible. So the first thing that you definitely don't want happening is somebody coming through tower very easily and having access to the site. So secure that off with a trip. You can also secure off gen if you like, or if you feel like, say it's a 3v2 situation and you feel like you want to bait them, you have time on your side. If you have planted default here, you can even do something like this. Having your camera set up over here and playing off of the bomb from tower. So this gives you access. You can see very secretly who is accessing site, where they're coming from, and then as soon as you feel like they're in a situation where they're not paying attention to you, or they have tripped this wire, all you have to do, pop out and start shooting. You can even come back in if you're getting overtaken, come back down here and regroup. But something simple like this, one on site, one covering your back and your camera, is very likely to give you all the recon that you need and your team needs to win the round. So that's it. You now know the basics of using Viper and Cypher in order to win on Fracture. Now this is a map that most people are going to hate playing. So if you can get it down, if you can use these 2, 3, 4, 5 agents that I recommended and play them in a way that's actually going to benefit not only yourself but your team, you will quickly find that this will become one of your favorite maps and a map that you'll be able to dominate other people on consistently more and more. Now don't be afraid to make slight alterations to some of the lineups and things like that I recommended, as these things are forever changing, and feel free to drop in below in the comments section any further tips that you would like to receive, as I think I will be doing a series like this more consistently, doing noob friendly guides not only to maps but also to agents in a more thorough way. This was more of a tester to see whether you guys liked my noob friendly guides and whether it's something that I should do more of. So I'd love to know any information below. Make sure to hit follow and all that good stuff, and I will see you next time.